My name's Sierra. I'm 31 years old, and the sentence that finally ended my relationship with my family wasn't shouted in anger or whispered in regret. It was said casually, almost carelessly. "You're not on the list." My own brother said it about his wedding, standing inside a house I had bought for him. That single sentence didn't just exclude me from a guest list, it cost him a $770,000 home, cost my father a daughter, and forced me to accept a truth I had spent years avoiding. I was never truly part of their world. What no one at that 200 guest reception knew, as they laughed under string lights and toasted to love, was that the roof over their heads still legally belonged to me, and I had already signed it away. But to understand how everything unraveled that night, you have to go back 17 years to a gray October morning when I was 14 and my mother died. She had been battling ovarian cancer for 2 years, and by the end, she was barely there physically, but emotionally, she remained the strongest person I had ever known. She believed in fairness, not favoritism. If my brother Dalton got something, I got it too. She made sure we were equal in every way. And maybe that's why her absence didn't just leave a hole, it created an imbalance that would shape the rest of my life. At her funeral, I stood just a few feet away as my father wrapped his arm around Dalton and declared, loudly and proudly, "You're the man of the house now." I remember waiting just for a second for him to look at me, to say something, anything, but he didn't. From that day forward, our home split into two realities. Dalton's life expanded, cars, opportunities, attention, while mine quietly shrank into the background. When I needed money for school, I was told to ask my brother. When I needed support, I was told to figure it out. So I did. I worked early mornings at a coffee shop before school, paid for my own books, my own clothes, my own future. I walked miles in the dark to attend scholarship interviews because no one would lend me a car. And when I finally graduated with honors, full scholarship in hand, my father wasn't there, but Patty, my mother's best friend, was. She clapped louder than anyone else in that auditorium, and she became the only person who consistently showed up for me. What I didn't know back then was that my mother had legally made Patty my godmother before she died, anticipating exactly what would happen to me once she was gone. And she was right. Every fear she had came true. I left home that same night after graduation, carrying 2 suitcases and zero expectations, and built my life from the ground up. Years later, I became successful in real estate. I earned everything on my own. And then, just when I had finally found stability, my father called me after years of silence, not to ask how I was, but to ask for a favor. Dalton needed a house. He was getting serious with a girl from a wealthy family, and apparently renting wasn't good enough. Something inside me, some old desperate hope, told me that maybe this was my chance. Maybe if I helped enough, gave enough, they would finally see me. So I bought the house, a beautiful $770,000 property, but I kept the deed in my name thanks to Patty's insistence. At the time, it felt like a small precaution. In reality, it was the only thing that saved me. Dalton moved in and never once questioned ownership. Over time, he didn't just live there, he claimed it. Slowly, he erased me from his life, excluding me from holidays, family events, even casual conversations. Then I saw it, the Instagram post, a Just Us family Christmas, in my house. I wasn't just excluded, I was erased. And still, I didn't act. Not yet. The breaking point came when I learned Dalton had been asking lawyers about adverse possession, basically looking for a legal way to claim my property as his own. That's when the illusion shattered. Still, I gave him one last chance, his wedding. If he invited me, maybe there was still something left to save. He didn't. When I confronted him, he told me the guest list was tight, that Nicole's family came first, that the house had been his for 2 years. And when I called my father, he told me calmly, "You'll be fine. You always are." That sentence broke something in me permanently. It wasn't just dismissal, it was permission. Permission for them to never show up for me because they assumed I didn't need it. That night, I stopped hoping. I contacted a lawyer, confirmed the house was legally mine, and made my decision. I sold it. Quietly, legally, completely. The closing happened one day before the wedding. Then, on the wedding night, while 200 guests celebrated inside what they believed was Dalton's home, I sent a simple email. The house had been sold, the deed was mine, and they had 30 days to vacate. No emotion, no drama, just facts. Within minutes, everything collapsed. Dalton turned pale. Nicole learned the truth. The lies unraveled in front of everyone. My father had nothing to say. And just like that, the carefully crafted illusion they had built for years fell apart. The next morning, my father called me furious, accusing me of ruining everything. But for the first time, I didn't back down. I told him the truth. I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped pretending. Dalton called too, cycling through anger, manipulation, and finally a weak apology he couldn't even explain. But it was too late. The damage wasn't in that moment, it was in the 17 years leading up to it, in the silence, the neglect, the erasure. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. I paid off my debts, created a scholarship foundation in my mother's name to help girls like me, and bought a small home for myself, one where I would never have to prove I belonged. Because that's what I finally understood. Family isn't about what you give, it's about whether you're seen, valued, and included. And if you're not, you don't need permission to walk away. You don't need validation to set boundaries. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose yourself.